Jasmine Singleton was found shot Monday night. Her sister is heartbroken, her friends are in shock, and her accused killer is the man she once loved.
The single most secure place we know is our home. It's the four walls where safety is a guarantee, where violence cannot trespass. But for 45-year-old Jasmine Singleton, that sacred guarantee was violently revoked. Not in a dark alley or on an isolated road, but in her own kitchen. It was late on a Monday, October 20th, 2025, in Clinton, Mississippi, just before 11 p.m., the hour when the world slows down and children are asleep. That quiet was ripped apart by the distinct, shattering sound of gunfire. Officers from the Clinton Police Department sped toward 907 Cedar Hills Drive, knowing immediately this was an emergency of the gravest nature. Inside the residence, the scene was devastating. Jasmine Singleton lay deceased on the kitchen floor, struck by multiple rounds. A mother, a neighbor, a contributing member of her community, her life ended by a lethal intrusion into her most private space. The kitchen, the heart of the home, became the location where a life of stability and love was decisively terminated. Ask yourself this: do you know the danger that knows your address? Have you ever felt the creeping fear that someone you cut out of your life still holds the critical key to your front door? Every day, people attempt to sever ties with a dangerous past, believing a legal document or a locked door is enough, but it often isn't. If this struggle against the lethality of a past relationship resonates with you, and if you believe stories of justice denied deserve attention, please hit the like button. It tells YouTube this conversation matters. Within hours, the police identified a suspect, her former boyfriend, a man named Carlton D. Mack. Mack had a known history of violence, a felony record, and a readily available gun. The question isn't who did this, but how does a system designed to protect fail so completely? We must examine the full footprint of this tragedy to find the truth. Watch until the very end to understand the systemic breakdown that allowed a predictable act of femicide to happen. Welcome to Unseen True Crime Stories, where the darkest mysteries and untold secret comes to light. Kindly hit that like button, subscribe to this channel, and turn on the notification bell. So you never miss any of our new stories. Your support keeps these stories alive. Jasmine Singleton was more than a casualty statistic. In Clinton, Mississippi, she was a central figure, a devoted mother raising two young children, a presence on Cedar Hills Drive who made it a brighter place. Neighbors remember her as the woman who consistently smiled at everyone, who actively looked out for her family and her street. This was a life grounded in stability, community, and maternal care. Her sudden, violent absence leaves an absolute structural void, shattering her family unit. The profound damage inflicted here extends far beyond a single life, robbing her children of the protection and love they found in their own home. Back at the scene, the investigation immediately focused on securing evidence and obtaining accounts. The initial chaos quickly sharpened into a clear focus. Neighbors and witnesses provided a crucial piece of information. Immediately following the gunshots, a vehicle was observed accelerating away from the residence. They described it as a gold Chevrolet Tahoe. This account was rapidly corroborated by available surveillance footage. The police had a vehicle description, a license plate, and a direction of travel. The efficiency of the residential cameras and the immediate witness cooperation allowed law enforcement to identify the vehicle's owner within hours. The gold Tahoe was registered to 42-year-old Carlton D. Mack, and with that name, the case instantly transformed. Mack was Jasmine Singleton's ex-boyfriend. The violence was not random, it was targeted. The crime shifted from a shocking homicide to a high-risk case of femicide, murder driven by gender, control, and a past relationship. Consider the deliberate choice. Mack commits a violent felony and flees the location in a vehicle registered in his own name. Is this the act of a man paralyzed by panic, or the calculated indifference of someone who genuinely believes the rules and consequences simply do not apply to him? He was a ghost on the run, but the truth of his history was already laid bare in police files, a documented record of escalating danger. And those records held the damning proof this was not an isolated event. This was the final, inevitable culmination of a pattern. Jasmine was dead, and Carlton Mack was somewhere in the adjacent metro area, leaving his former partner's blood on the kitchen floor. But as investigators began to process the crime scene, they pulled his complete file. What they found inside his background detailed a man who should never, under any circumstance, have been able to carry the lethal weapon he used. How does a system designed to protect fail so completely? That answer lies in the shocking details of Mac's criminal past. The man fleeing in that gold Tahoe was not an unpredictable actor. The horrifying truth is that Carlton D. Mack was a known, established threat. Police records show this murder was not an outburst. It was the inevitable endpoint of a documented progression. We are not dealing with an unknown variable here. We are dealing with a trajectory, a clear path Mack had been walking for years. The police confirmed it immediately. Carlton Mack had multiple prior arrests related to domestic violence. Let that sink in. This final, fatal act was the culmination of coercive control and physical threats that had been documented by law enforcement again and again. For true crime analysts, these multiple arrests constitute a high-risk profile. They were screaming red flags, evidence that Mack had an escalating disregard for the safety of his partners and the legal constraints placed upon him. This wasn't the beginning of his abuse, it was the violent conclusion. The most devastating detail in the charges filed against Mack is the inclusion of possession of a weapon by a convicted felon. This isn't a secondary issue. It is the core of the failure. Mack had a serious prior felony conviction, and coupled with his history of abuse, the law was unequivocally clear. He was legally barred from owning a firearm. No, seriously, the law was specifically designed to prevent men exactly like him from having lethal access to a gun. But Mack bypassed those restraints. He obtained a firearm and used it to kill Jasmine Singleton. The system possessed multiple undeniable data points. Mack was flagged by his extensive violence history. He was legally disqualified by his felony status. Yet despite these clear, documented risk factors and the robust laws intended to disarm him, the legal framework failed to interrupt his access to the murder weapon. This case highlights the dangerous gap between public knowledge of an abuser's past and the practical ability to ensure they are truly disarmed. This is where the conversation needs to happen. Do you believe the legal system does enough to disarm known domestic abusers once they are identified as a high risk? Does the punishment fit the risk? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Your voice on this topic is vital as it pushes for the awareness that can save lives.
And as police begin to work their case, Jasmine Singleton's loved ones are demanding justice and sending a message to others trapped in the shadows of domestic violence. Speak up before it's too late. In a story you'll only see here on 16 WAPT, our own Brooklyn Joyner spoke with those who knew and loved her. She joins us live in Clinton tonight with what they shared. Brooklyn.
Troy, Megan, Jasmine's friends and family says that she should still be alive today. They said that they will always remember her kind and caring personality. The vibrant spirit of Jasmine Singleton gone too soon, but will always be remembered by those who loved her.
We did the karaoke, and she was the background singer to me.
Her sister, Deandra, is angry about her sister's murder as she shares memories of the 45-year-old's life.
Why would you do that to my sister? My only sister, my oldest sister.
Singleton was found shot to death on her kitchen floor in Clinton Monday night.
You know the saying, to death do his part. That's what it was. He was jealous. He didn't want to let her go. So instead, being a man, he was a coward, and he took her away from us.
Deandra said Mack was a violent person, and Singleton broke up with Mack months ago to protect her 3 children.
She spoke up, but it wasn't enough.
Now Singleton's community is cherishing the memories they had with her, including her makeup artist who she had known since high school.
The whole time I have her face in my hands and I'm sculpting her eyebrows, creating the look that she wants. She was always a sweet, happy, loving, gentle, bright, happy spirit.
Although Singleton lost her life, Deandra said she is proud of her sister for speaking up against domestic violence and encourages others to continue to do the same.
Everyone has to speak up. When you see these red flags, you have to speak up.
Mack had the weapon, he had the motive of control, and he was on the run. The system failed to protect Jasmine, and now it was in a desperate 48-hour race to contain the threat it allowed to arm itself. How long could a man, tied to a heinous crime, stay hidden in a high-risk flight attempt before the net closed? The answer to how does a system designed to protect fail so completely was about to be confirmed with Mack's capture. Following the shooting, Carlton Mack immediately put distance between himself and Cedar Hills Drive. He drove to Jackson, Mississippi, a larger metropolitan area adjacent to Clinton, and abandoned the gold Chevrolet Tahoe. It was a clear, though short-sighted attempt to obstruct the investigation. The vehicle was easily identifiable and, crucially, registered in his name. The rapid recovery of the Tahoe by investigators confirmed the solid link between Mack, the scene, and the fatal act, allowing the police to solidify their manhunt. With a clear suspect identified, a convicted felon with a documented history of domestic violence, the Clinton Police Department knew time was critical. They initiated an active, focused search. Mack was publicly labeled a person of interest, considered armed and dangerous, and authorities urged the community not to approach him. The focus shifted entirely to operational efficiency. The system that failed to protect Jasmine was now determined to neutralize the armed threat it had allowed to escape. Mack's flight was brief. His freedom lasted only 48 hours after the murder. The pursuit escalated, eventually involving the U.S. Marshal Service, underscoring the severity of the charges and the flight risk. Mack was apprehended on Wednesday, October 22, 2025, in Bolton, Mississippi. The quick, decisive capture ensured that the individual who took a life was removed from the public sphere rapidly. The arrest was a necessary action. Accountability was secured. But this moment of resolution does not solve the core tragedy. The man was in custody. The children were still without their mother.
The man suspected in the shooting death of his ex-girlfriend is in custody tonight. Clinton police, with help from U.S. Marshals, arrested Carlton Mack in Bolton. He's charged with murder and possession of a weapon by a felon in the shooting death of 45-year-old Jasmine Singleton Monday. Singleton was found dead on the kitchen floor at a home in the 900 block of Cedar Hill Drive. Witnesses said they heard gunshots and saw a gold Chevy Tahoe leaving the scene. Police say surveillance video confirmed that vehicle was owned by Mack. The Clinton Police Department continues to investigate this case.
The speed of the apprehension highlights law enforcement's ability to react, but it painfully underscores their failure to intervene sooner. Following the capture, Carlton D. Mack was formally charged with the maximum offenses: murder and possession of a weapon by a convicted felon. This legal strategy is crucial. The dual charges ensure that even if the primary murder charge faced challenges, the secondary felony charge, the illegal act of arming himself, guarantees a lengthy custodial sentence, ensuring full accountability for the actions that led to the homicide. Carlton Mack was off the streets, but the legal battle was just beginning, and the final tragic lesson of this case was waiting to be understood. The reason Jasmine Singleton died is the exact reason countless victims live in daily paralyzing fear right now. It all comes back to our central question. How does a system designed to protect fail so completely? This case forces us to move past the simple facts of a murder. The story of Jasmine Singleton is not an anomaly. It is a textbook, terrifying demonstration of the deadly synergy between intimate partner violence, a perpetrator's need for control, and the access to lethal means. When an individual with a prior felony conviction and a documented record of abusing women is still able to arm himself, the law is just language on paper. It has no real power. Jasmine's loss inflicted a profound, lasting devastation. The grief for her father, James Smith, her adopted mother, Diane Williams, and the wide network of siblings and family is immense. But the deepest wound is carried by her two young children, who now face life without their mother because a man she once trusted prioritized his own control over her right to safety. This was not a private tragedy. It was a violent tear in the fabric of Cedar Hills Drive, shattering the community's sense of security. The investigation into Jasmine's death must serve as a critical examination of societal responsibility. We know the high-risk factors for femicide. We have the data points. The focus must be on closing the dangerous gap between legal knowledge of an abuser's violent history and the practical mechanisms needed to ensure they are permanently disarmed and restrained. The truth is, until that gap is closed, the system will continue to create victims. If Jasmine Singleton's story and the painful realization of how predictable her death was made you question the safety of those you know, share this video with one person who needs to hear it. Awareness creates pressure, and pressure forces change. The investigation into justice and the fight for prevention continues with every story we tell. Our hearts ache for Jasmine's family, words feel inadequate, but please know you are held in deepest sympathy and prayers. May you find strength and comfort in the memories of Jasmine. Thank you for watching, for your attention, and for joining us on this journey of reflection. Stay informed, stay vigilant. See you on our next video.